We are going on a journey tonight, not to a place you can find on a map, but to a place you can feel in your heart. We are going to wait for a tram that runs only in the rain, on tracks of memory. So close your eyes, listen to the sound of my voice, and let us begin. The city has surrendered itself to the night and to the rain. A gentle, persistent drumming on rooftops and window panes. A silver curtain that hushes the streets and washes the lamplight into long, shimmering ribbons on the wet asphalt. The world feels clean and quiet and very, very old. In this sleeping city, on nights exactly like this, something special happens. At the stroke of midnight, when the rain is falling softly, a tram appears. It is a beautiful, antique thing, made of dark, polished wood and soft glowing brass. It has no number displayed on its front, no destination written on its side. It is known to those who need it simply as Tram 7. It runs on tracks that seem to appear only for its journey, and it comes without a schedule, without a sound. There are no timetables, no ticket booths. You cannot decide to ride it. Instead, on a night when the rain seems to be falling just for you, and your heart is heavy with something you can no longer carry alone, you will find yourself standing at a street corner you don't quite recognize. And you will see the tram's warm, golden light approaching through the mist. You will simply know that it has come for you. Tonight, a young woman named Nara stands on such a corner. The rain falls on her coat, but she doesn't seem to notice. Her gaze is distant, and her eyes hold the deep, still color of a twilight sky just before the stars appear. In her hands, she clutches a small, smooth wooden box. She has held this box for so long that its edges are worn soft from the touch of her fingers. The gentle chime of the tram bell, a sound like a distant memory, reaches her. The doors slide open with a soft sigh, revealing an interior bathed in warm, amber light. Without hesitation, as if pulled by an invisible thread, Nara steps aboard. The doors close behind her, sealing out the world, and the tram begins to move, gliding silently through the rainy, dreaming city. The inside of Tram 7 was a world of its own. It was warm and smelled faintly of old wood, damp wool, and something else. Something like old paper and dried flowers. The gentle rocking of the tram was a soothing, rhythmic cradle, and the sound of the rain against the roof was a constant, soft percussion. Nara saw that she was not alone. The other passengers were scattered throughout the car, sitting in quiet solitude. They were not sad, not exactly. They looked weary. But it was a peaceful kind of weariness. like that of a traveler who is finally nearing the end of a very long journey. Near the front, an old man sat with his eyes closed, his hands resting on a thick, hand-knitted wool sweater draped across his lap. He wasn't wearing it. He was just holding it, his fingers occasionally tracing the patterns in the yarn as if reading a forgotten story. A few seats away, a young boy, no older than 10, sat staring out the window. He held a small, empty picture frame. The glass was gone, leaving only the space where a beloved face used to be. Across the aisle, a man in a crisp suit that seemed out of place in the dreamy Tram held a pen and a single sheet of paper. His pen hesitated just above the page, as if he had been trying to write the same letter for a very, very long time. No one spoke. The silence was not awkward or empty. It was full. It was a shared silence, thick with unspoken thoughts and unreleased feelings. Each person was an island, yet they were all connected by the same quiet ocean of experience. Nara found an empty seat by a window and settled in, placing the wooden box carefully on her lap. An old woman sitting opposite her, with eyes as kind and crinkled as ancient parchment, offered her a small, gentle smile. Nara found herself smiling back, a faint, shy curve of her lips. The old woman's voice, when she spoke, was as soft as the rain. "It's a peaceful journey, isn't it?" Nara nodded, her voice a mere whisper. "Where does it go?" The old woman's smile deepened. She looked around at the other passengers, then back at Nara, her gaze full of a profound and simple wisdom. "Oh, this tram doesn't take us anywhere, dear," she said softly. "It doesn't travel to a place. It travels to a time. It takes us back inside ourselves so we can find the one stop where we need to get off." Nara looked down at the box in her hands. The polished wood felt cool and heavy beneath her fingers. She understood. Chapter 3. The Stations of Memory. The tram continued its silent glide through the night. The city outside the windows was no longer a city of streets and buildings, but a shifting landscape of light and shadow, of memory and mist. The tram didn't stop at stations with names and platforms. It paused in places that were made only of feeling. A soft chime, like a single drop of water falling into a still pool, echoed through the car. The tram slowed to a gentle halt. The light outside the window turned a soft, forgiving gray. A feeling of deep, quiet regret filled the air. The man with the unfinished letter stood up. He looked at the paper in his hand one last time, then gently placed it on the seat he was leaving. He walked to the doors, and as they opened, he stepped out not onto a street, but into a soft, waiting light. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, and then he was gone, dissolved into the rain. The doors closed, and the feeling of regret lifted. The tram moved on. They had stopped at the station of unsaid apologies. Sometime later, another chime. The tram slowed again. This time, the air felt different. It was filled with a bittersweet ache, the feeling of a final wave, a moment you wish you could have held on to for just a second longer. The young boy with the empty frame stood up. He walked to the door, clutching his frame tightly. For a moment, it seemed he wouldn't let it go. But then he took a deep breath and carefully placed the empty frame on the floor by the door. He stepped out into the misty night, and as the doors closed, the frame and the boy were gone. They had been at the station of the last goodbye. With each stop, Nara felt the small wooden box in her lap grow heavier. It was no longer just wood and air. It felt as if it were filling with the weight of her own unshed tears, her own unspoken words. The tram was moving closer and closer to her stop, and she knew it. The old woman with the kind eyes eventually rose as the tram slowed in a place that felt warm, like a memory of sunshine. She left behind the old wool sweater, neatly folded on her seat. She gave Nara one last encouraging smile before she too stepped out and vanished. The station of forgiveness. Now, Nara was almost alone. The gentle rocking of the tram, the soft drumming of the rain, and the steady, heavy weight of the box in her hands. The tram moved on, and the world outside the window grew darker, quieter. The space left by the other passengers seemed to amplify the silence. In that deep, peaceful quiet, Nara's own story finally had room to breathe. She didn't need to speak it aloud. The tram already knew. It was a story that began and ended with the rain. A year ago, on a day much like this one, the rain had fallen without end. It was the day her mother had passed away, peacefully, in her sleep. After, when Nara was sorting through her mother's things, she found this small, unadorned wooden box. There was no key, no note explaining what it was. It was just left for her, and Nara had never opened it. She carried it with her everywhere. It was the last thing her mother had touched, the last mystery, the last tangible piece of her. She held on to it with a quiet desperation. because she was afraid. She was terrified that if she opened it and found it empty, or found something she didn't understand, the last thread connecting her to her mother would be broken. She believed that as long as the box remained closed, her mother wasn't truly, completely gone. The not knowing was a space where her mother could still exist. The tram chimed one last time, a final, clear, resonant note that seemed to hang in the air forever. It slowed and came to a complete, perfect stop. There was no color outside the window this time. No feeling of regret or nostalgia. There was only a profound, absolute stillness. A deep, waiting silence. This was the final stop. The silent station. This was her station. With trembling fingers, Nara lifted the small brass latch on the front of the box. It made a tiny click, the only sound in the universe. She hesitated for a heartbeat, her breath caught in her throat. Then, slowly, she lifted the lid. It wasn't empty. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was not a jewel or a keepsake. It was a small, folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. Her mother's familiar, elegant handwriting graced the page. Nara unfolded it. There were only a few words. When you're ready, my love, I'll still be here. You will find me in the gentle rains. A single tear, one she had been holding back for a year, traced a path down her cheek. It wasn't a tear of sorrow. It was a tear of release. She hadn't been holding on to her mother. She had been holding on to her grief. And her mother, in her infinite wisdom, had known. She had left her not a final goodbye, but a promise of a new hello. Nara read the note one more time, letting the words sink into her heart like rain into thirsty earth. She carefully folded it and placed it in her pocket. Then she closed the lid of the wooden box and gently placed it on the seat beside her. Its weight was gone. It was just a box again. She stood and walked to the doors. They slid open, revealing the same rainy night she had left behind. But it looked different now. It felt different. She didn't know where she was. The street was quiet and empty, but it no longer felt lonely. She took a step out of the tram onto the wet pavement. The rain was still falling. It landed on her face, on her hands, on her hair. It wasn't cold. It felt like a gentle, loving touch, a soft caress, a whispered welcome. Nara closed her eyes, tilted her face up to the sky, and let the rain wash over her. It was not the rain of loss anymore. It was the rain of memory, of presence, of a love that hadn't ended, but had simply changed its form. Behind her, the doors of Tram 7 slid shut with a soft sigh, without a sound, without a chime. It began to move. It didn't drive down the street. It simply faded, dissolving into the silver mist until it was nothing more than a memory. Nara stood there for a long time, alone in the gentle rain. She felt a lightness in her soul she hadn't felt in a year. The heavy weight she had carried for so long was gone. But she hadn't lost anything. She hadn't left her mother behind on that tram. She had only left behind her fear. She opened her eyes and whispered to the listening night, her voice clear and calm. I'm ready now. And in the quiet heart of the sleeping city, everything was still. But for Nara, everything had just begun. The rain has stopped now. The city is quiet, and Nara has found her way home. Let the peace of her journey become your own. Every one of us has a small box we carry, a memory we hold on to tightly. But tonight, there is no need to carry anything. You can set it down just for a while. Feel the lightness in your own heart as you let go of the day. The journey is over. You have arrived at your own silent station, a place of deep and quiet rest. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, except right here, sinking into a soft, peaceful sleep. You have not lost anything. You have only kept what is truly essential, your peace. Breathe in and breathe out. Sleep well, and may all your rains be gentle. Good night.